Welcome back, everybody, to Nothing Less Than Extraordinary. For those who are just tuning in, you're in for a treat. And I am super excited to have Alex Hint with us today. Alex, thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And so I'm going to actually introduce Alex really briefly. He's a great guy, and you'll get to know him a little bit more as we dive into his story. Amazing story. I can't wait for you to discover it. So Alex is actually a social media marketing coach and creator. He's based out in Hawaii, and we'll hear about that story in Hawaii soon with his lovely girlfriend. And so Alex helped business to actually become industry leader that actually make compelling online videos such as TikTok as myself that are actually going to be enjoying it. And I love the process. He makes it breaks it down, very simplistic, dummy 101, which is what I need because I'm not a technology girl. But I'm here. I love doing podcasts. I'm super happy to have this genuine human being on my podcast telling his compelling story. So we're super excited. And today's topic is how to overcome and adapting to challenges. So Alex, you got quite a bit of an interesting story. Alex was actually working for a big chain hotel, and then all of a sudden COVID hit. First day, moved to Hawaii, and they laid him off. So we'll go from there, Alex.
Yeah, thanks so much and excited to be on this podcast because it's very, apropos to my life overcoming, and the title of the thing is overcoming challenges and obstacles. And my story is a good antidote to what's possible. And the different opportunities that can come from facing challenges in your life. Right.
Yes.
So, a little bit about my story. I was a international award-winning hotel manager. I worked at hotels in Madison, Wisconsin, where I'm originally from, and in Japan. And I moved out to Hawaii in December of 2019 with my girlfriend to continue our hospitality career. And I got the most amazing job. I was about to make six figures as a 27-year-old. And on my first day of work, they call me and they say, "Don't come into work today. You're furloughed because of COVID-19. And I thought, okay, 2 weeks, right? And we'll go back. And I didn't really think much of it. And we didn't qualify for unemployment because we quit our old jobs, and I hadn't even started at my new one. And so I started just trying to figure out how to make a buck. I got an online job as a hiking expert. I drove food delivery. I stacked up furniture in our studio apartment, and I would resell it on Facebook Marketplace. At one point, I was actually going to job sites around town and asking if they had leftover building materials. And I would put the building materials in the back of my Honda Fit and then resell them on Facebook Marketplace. So at one point, I literally had 900 pounds of concrete in the back of my Honda Fit that I was trying to resell for like $40. It's just crazy. I just did insane things. And I did that thinking I'd eventually go back to hotels because it was just 2 weeks, right? And they would call me month after month, one more month, just 30 more days, two more weeks. And they kept kind of stringing me along. And then finally, at the end of 2019, they said, "You're never coming back to work. You're permanently laid off."
Oh, boy.
And then I was really kind of nervous and scared. And I said, okay, well, I was in a lot of credit card debt because I thought I'd eventually go back to this high paying job. And I was just kind of racking up the credit card debt. We didn't move to Hawaii with a lot of money. We moved here with no car, no job, no connections. I mean, just by ourselves and just, hey, we'll figure it out. Yeah. And we did until COVID, and then things changed. And so ended December of 2019, laid off, tons of credit card debt. Hawaii is 100% tourist, and we were still locked down. You still could not come here. The hotels weren't hiring. And I kind of realized then I'd probably never go back to hotels, not for the long future. So I decided to become a real estate agent. I mean, that was one of the things that I knew you could do. And I understood, okay, I tried I became a real estate agent, joined a company, just spent the money on credit. I actually cleared money off credit cards to take the real estate exam and do all this stuff, was driving delivery in between, listening to the real estate training as I'm driving delivery, took my test, passed it, joined a real estate company. And at first I was knocking on doors, hey, you want to buy a house or you want to sell your house. Nobody wanted to talk to me, right? I didn't understand sales. I didn't understand real estate. I was brand new, but I understood things about social media because I had used social media at the hotels that I worked at. I had managed social media accounts for giant hotels, $36 million hotels. So I understood things about social media, but I never did it for myself. I was like the guy who posted once every 4 years on Facebook.
That's
And
me.
it wouldn't even be me. It would be like, a photo of a sunset, So I was not a social media person. I did not want to be in front of the camera at all. I wasn't really, but I was at the point where I said, one, what do I have to lose?
Yeah.
And two, what the heck am I going to do otherwise? Right. It was just kind of like, I was kind of put into a corner. And so I started posting videos on social media and, doing some of these strategies that I teach new business owners to get noticed and to, just get off the ground. Cause that's where a lot of people get caught up is they post a couple videos, but it doesn't really go anywhere and they get demotivated. And so I understood, some different strategies that I utilized. And within my first month, actually, somebody reached out to me and they said, "Hey, Alex, we should talk sometime." And I was so kind of caught off guard. I literally responded with, "About what?"
Yeah.
And they messaged me back. They're like, "Real estate? Like, what do you, real estate?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm a realtor." Forgot, like, yeah, let's talk about real estate.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
talked to him for about a month and he says, "Okay, we're flying in January. Can you meet up with us?" Sure, of course. Yeah, definitely. Right. I have no idea who this guy is, anything, he's just like, "Let's work together. And this is what I'm looking for," and send him some houses.
Yeah.
And so I go to the airport and I rent a car. I clear some money off a credit card so I can rent a car because mine has 900 pounds of concrete in the back of it. Right. And I pick him up from the airport and we're going to drive to look at our first location.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Tell me a little bit about yourself, Alex." "Oh, okay. I'm Alex and I'm originally from Madison, Wisconsin. And I was a hotel manager and I moved to Hawaii." And he stops and he scratches his head and he goes, "Really? When were you in the Navy?" And I'm like, "I've never been in the Navy." He goes, "Really? Because, Scott so-and-so said you guys were Navy brothers. Don't you know who Scott so-and-so is?" "No, I don't." And the husband realizes in that moment that I'm not the real estate agent he thinks I am.
Oh
I'm somebody completely different. And they're in a car in Hawaii driving with a complete stranger.
no. No, no. Oh boy.
And the craziest part about this is
Yeah.
the husband is a former FBI agent who specializes in cybersecurity and counterintelligence. And so his profession is literally to do online background checks and to research people on the internet. And he didn't do a background check on his realtor. And if we rewind to when he messaged me, what happened was he saw a post of mine on social media. And that same day, he saw a post and I interacted with him in some way. I liked him or followed a post that he had. And that same day, an admiral in the Navy said, "Hey, I'm going to connect you with a real estate agent in Hawaii." And on that same day, I basically reached out to him on social media and he saw my username, which was Alex hit Hawaii real estate, and thought, "This must be the guy." How else would he find me? He had a completely anonymous account, private, And so I interacted with him. He read my name. He said, "Oh, this must be the guy." The other real estate agent never reached out. But because I responded, he just assumed I was anticipating his message. And so we later laughed about this. He's like, "When you responded, like, what do you want to talk about?" I was like, "What do you mean?" You know what I mean? But at that point, it's too late. We're literally in the car in Hawaii driving to go look at a house. What is he going to do? Pull around, drop us back off at the airport, right? So, it just, worked out that way. So we look at houses, and at the end of that day, the day went amazing. I had no experience showing people houses or driving around or anything. The day went amazing. And at the end of the day, he's like, "Okay, Alex, let's put an offer in on this home." And I literally went home that night and I had to Google search how to do a real estate offer because I had no idea. And it was late, so I couldn't like call my brokerage or anything and like, hey, walk me through. But I'm like literally learning. I mean, that's not maybe a good reflection on me as a realtor, but I was just learning, like what else am I gonna do, right? I kind of fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
So we put it in an offer. The offer doesn't go through. I kind of realized in hindsight, it may have not been the best offer, but I was just working off the information I had at the time.
Yeah.
And it took a couple more tries. And, the second offer you do, it's a lot easier. And finally, we get them an accepted offer. $1.42 million is the cost of the house. $1.42 million, right? Accepted offer. They move in 30 days. And I hand them the keys. 30 days. The house is theirs. Good. I hand them the keys. And at the end, these are the nicest, most gracious people you've ever met. Only at the end where they're like, okay, Alex, how many houses have you sold before? They had no idea. And I'm like, you can't lie to the FBI, right?
No.
So I'm like, actually, this is the first house I've ever sold. And the husband, he's shaking. He's like, you did such an amazing job. And the wife is crying. She's like, we knew it. We're so proud of you. We're so happy for you. And in that one sale, I made more money than I made the entire year previously.
Yeah.
And my life changed just like that in a twinkling of an eye. My financial situation completely changed. Yeah. And through the end of that year, I ended up doing 2 more deals, sold over $3 million in real estate, and absolutely changed my life. And was able to start posting more on social media, started posting more on TikTok. And the results that I was getting on TikTok were just kind of blowing my mind because I was using all the different platforms. I was using Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and LinkedIn. But what was happening on TikTok was pretty incredible. In my first month on TikTok, I got 200,000 views. Wow. Which was more than I got on all the other platforms combined. And so I started telling my story to other business owners and realtors, and they were amazed. And then I, was kind of telling them, hey, are you on TikTok? Because, I'm getting all these, I'm getting great results. And they kept saying, no, I'm not. Okay, why are you not? Well, I don't know how, and what's the type of content, and I don't know all the, and so I started helping a couple people, and they had great results, and helped a couple more people, and they got great results. And I said, well, I should probably start charging for this, right? So I started charging people eventually, and then at the end, that was at the beginning of 2022, just the beginning of this year, and by the end of 2022, I've created an entirely other business here, that has replaced my real estate income, and it's coaching people on how to use TikTok so they can have similar success, kind of this, this extraordinary success through social media. Not for a super high cost. I did all of my stuff on social media without ever paying for an advertisement, all on my phone. I actually started recording my first videos in my car in between deliveries, in between, delivery driving. I was recording my TikToks, and that's how I started. Yeah. So, teaching new entrepreneurs and new business owners, and even experienced business owners, how to succeed on social media through these kind of unconventional tactics. One part of it is telling stories, but that deal didn't come out of necessarily a post. It came out through a type of what I call unconventional interaction on social media. So pretty extraordinary story. I always tell people, I tricked an FBI agent into buying $1 million house, which it's kind of true, but
it's kind of true. But it's how the universe worked out for you in that way. I love your story because it really exemplified how learning to just run with life, like just going with the flow. Look, you took a chance. You and your girlfriend was like, okay, we'll move to Hawaii. Oh, and then she said, are you sure? Like, that sounds like, are we going to do this? You're like, yeah, we're going to do this. And then you get there and you're living at a place for 2 weeks, not knowing where you're going to be next and how you're going to figure out, have no job, no cars. And all of a sudden you found this amazing place. Some girl needed to leave and you got that perfect place with the beautiful sunset view and the ocean front and people surfing and all that stuff. Wow. Like, and then you landed with an FBI selling your first home over $1 million. It's just insane.
It was like this experience where, it's like highest of highs, lowest of lows, highest of highs, and then it kind of evens out. But, part of the story is, and I think so important, is that it was a year of tremendous debt, working 14 hours a day, not doing anything glamorous. It was not glamorous. I mean, I was driving delivery, I was stacking concrete. We had a studio apartment with 20 ottomans in it that I'm selling to make $20. You know what I mean? Just really just like struggling and praying and thinking, when is this ever going to end? But I just had faith that we were here for a reason. There were so many coincidences and things that led us here. We were supposed to be here, and that eventually, if we kept trying and kept pushing, we would have a big break, and something would happen, our luck would change. I just don't know why, if it was, like delusional, or if there was really something telling me like there is something on the other end of this. At the end of all the struggle, there really was. And there was just an overwhelming feeling like something big is going to happen if we just stick out a little bit longer, if we just try a little bit harder, if we just continue to kind of be open to the different opportunities. And I really felt down deep that something was going to happen, something big was going to happen.
Oh, so you felt that inside?
Yeah. I remember sitting on the bed with my girlfriend when we were so in debt. I mean, we barely had money to buy food, and I just looked over and I said, this is going to change. I know it's going to change. I think having her there really helped me kind of be strong in that moment, or have somebody else who relies on me.
Yeah.
And needed me to be kind of because we were in such a dark situation. But I did have a feeling like there's something important. There's a reason that we're here in Hawaii, and it wasn't just to get fired and go into debt. Like, that's not why we're here. We're here for something really big, something amazing, something that we can't, just like when we moved there, something that was bigger and better than we could have ever imagined. And it wasn't even that it was like, if you would have told me, like, in that situation, like, oh, you're going to sell $1 million house to an FBI agent who thinks you're, like, nobody would believe that. Like, I don't even believe it still. It's like an absurd kind of situation. So yeah, but I did have that feeling of, okay, even though we're low, there's something waiting for us here.
And I find that it's such a powerful story, because a lot of people need to hear these type of story, because what I really like is that it's not without struggles. Like, you didn't just get to the top and make that million without being completely in debt, barely able to afford grocery, and just hanging on to that hope, knowing that there is a bigger meaning behind all of this. And that's so important for people that are going through the process, is that you're going to have to go through the low before you get to the high. So you have to put in the work, and you have to believe. So, and I find that when you learn to go with the flow, I have a similar story, hopefully one day my story will be just as good as yours, but I have a similar story very shortly, where when I do go with the flow, when I don't judge the process, I'm being spontaneous, magical things always happen. Like, I booked a vacation to go to Thailand and Cambodia, because it's a round trip at a price that I've never seen before. Put it on my credit card, couldn't afford it, and was not approved for the vacation yet. And it was very last minute. Asked my boss to go. She wasn't happy, got myself demoted. And it was going to be a huge conflict with my then ex-husband. And I went with it because my gut intuition told me this is what I need to do. And I at the time, I was struggling to see whether I should stay in this relationship or not, or where am I heading with all of this. And I was asking for a sign, and the sign came, and it said, book this thing. And then my logic kicked in. It was like, no, you can't do that. This just doesn't make any sense, putting your money on a credit card, going on a whim. And, your boss didn't approve it. It's too last minute. You're going to get demoted. You're being irresponsible. All of the logic told me, no, don't go.
Yeah.
Intuition told me, this is your ticket. You're going to either seize it or you don't. And I decided to let go of my logic, went with the flow, enjoyed, came back, got clarity of the situation, realized this relationship is no longer working. I need to do something about it. Now, what am I going to do about it? And so when I realized that there's so many things in life, when you do it out of spontaneous, and go with your gut feeling and trust that there's a bigger process behind it. Even when I got divorced, I mean, I was thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm going to turn out to be an old lady all by myself alone. How
Right.
am I going to do it? Like moving into a new house, having kids. I don't know if there's a bus that's going to drive my kid all the way to this section. If there's a plumbing that's broken, I have no idea how to fix it. If my car breaks in the winter, how am I going to do that? How am I going to figure it out financially? But I just said, you know what? I trust that the universe has it. I'm going to figure out. I trust in my own ability. I'll deal with it when the times come. And I've honestly, when I got divorced, I had so many money falling off of the sky. I didn't know where it was coming from. So it's just crazy. That's what I'm telling.
And when did you take that trip?
I took it at the same time as you in December 2019.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I
And
know.
imagine, and I was thinking that when you were telling that story, imagine if either of us would have waited,
Mm-hmm.
would have never happened.
Nope. I would have missed that opportunity.
You would have missed the opportunity probably for 2 years. You probably, I mean, maybe, it forever changed. And that was what was really, I've done some other amazing things. I biked halfway across Japan with my best friend, and I've done some really amazing things in my life. And it was never because I had all the finances to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And I have put myself in a financial struggle because of this, but I absolutely never regret it, because I realized if I didn't take that opportunity then,
Mm-hmm.
I still wouldn't be able to take it today. I'm in no different situation today, and I'm just older, and it'd probably just be harder physically. So yeah, this is amazing that you took the trip at the same time. And if you would have just waited a little bit longer, right? Logic was telling you to wait a little bit longer, the trip would have never happened.
Mm-hmm. It would have never happened. The
Yeah.
ticket that I bought a day after, my intuition was telling me the ticket was going to go back up. You click it right away or it's gone. The next day, the ticket was sold out at that price. It jacked
Wow.
up double the price. And I was like, wow. And honestly, I would have been staying still in that marriage because I needed distance and perspective. I needed to connect back with my source. I lost my identity when you're in a relationship.
Mm,
Use one
right.
identity is more dominant than the other. And I was very young, so I fused into my ex-husband's identity. I kind of didn't know who I was, but
Yeah.
that gave me clarity when I took this trip. And when I went by myself
Wow.
in a country that I didn't know. I slept at hostel because I barely had money. I racked it on a credit card, and I met so many amazing people like I've never seen it. And when I go to places, I like to just get lost because it's like
Mm,
everywhere I turn, it's a wonder. And there's so many people handling me magical stories or things. And so like I just went to Brazil this summer for 2 weeks to visit a friend that I met in Thailand. And she said, I was supposed to go down to Cuba. And she said, well, why don't you just come to Brazil instead of Cuba? I'm like, yeah, okay, why not? So we went there and I had the most amazing time because I just went with the flow. And I was like embracing the opportunity and going, okay, universe, show me what you need to tell me. And I almost
right.
didn't go to Brazil because with COVID, they jack up the price. Like you'll book it with them.
Hmm.
I was supposed to pay about 2,000 for the airline of Air Canada. They reserved it for me. I made a down payment. They decided to last minute jacked up the price. They said, look, I had like 2 weeks before the date where I was supposed to travel. They're like, okay, well, Air Canada closed and they're jacking up the price, another $500. Do you want it? I couldn't even afford it. I'm like, no, that's insane. How could you do this to me? I gave a deposit. You should honor that. They didn't. And I said, oh my God. Okay, so I canceled with them and I asked my friend in Brazil, who's really good at finding price. She found me an even better price. Of course, there's not a direct flight. It's fine, and it was way cheaper. So I'm like, you know what? And there was a part of me because my dad was trying to convince me. He's like, how? Like he meant the kindest thing ever. Sometimes your loved one means the best, but might not always be the right thing for you. So
Right.
my dad said, how could you possibly abandon your kid for 2 weeks? It's only 1 week because they go back to their dad 1 week. He said, how could you leave the kids? How could you leave on a trip by yourself without the kids? And I said, it's not because I didn't want to go with the kid. I had asked to go with the kids, but my ex didn't give me the permission to take the kid with me. And at the time, I was furious because we gone through the divorce. I wanted to build a memory with the children and really bond with them.
Yeah.
And so when he didn't give me that permission, I asked the universe, I'm like, why are you doing this to me? Like, I want to go on a trip with my kids. And now he's not giving them permission. So I asked, and the universe told me, I've done this all on purpose just for you. And at the time, I didn't know because I invested in crypto and I got ripped off in crypto. So I thought I would have the money from the crypto to afford the trip with my children. I'll be okay. Turned out my ex refused the trip so that the kid be with me. I had just enough money to afford for myself to go on vacation. So it worked out magically, and it
Yeah.
turned out to be the best vacation ever because I didn't have kids hanging on me, and I could just really reconnect with who I am, what I wanted out of life. It was the best 2 weeks with my girlfriend. We had an amazing time. So sometimes going with the flow, life's happened for a reason. Don't fight it. Just embrace it. It's like a gift.
Yeah. Yeah, I wrote this poem that just kind of came to me, but I think it kind of encapsulates a lot of the kind of sentiment or feeling. It's, eat the fruit while it's ripe.
Yes.
Passion is a dying light.
Mhm.
Passions under your control will not be passions when you're old. So
Mhm.
don't leave until tomorrow to do what you should have done today. Fight against the dying light and make life a burning flame.
Did you just came up with that amazing poem? Like,
I did not just come up with it. I wrote it a while back. It literally just came to me, and I just wrote it in like one
it's so
like
beautiful.
series. It's so it really. I mean, I'm not like to my own home, but it just connects with me so much. And I think with what we're talking about, it's like you have to eat the fruit while it's ripe.
Mm,
Your passion is a dying light.
yeah,
The passions you have now are not going to be the passions when you're old.
exactly.
And you just can't wait until tomorrow to do what you should have done. There's just so many things in there that's just like, if you don't eat the fruit while it's ripe, look, it's going to expire on the branch. It's going to rot on the tree. And you're not going to give that. I mean, life is so fleeting. Life is so short. We
Mhm.
only have this small amount of time. It's so precious.
Yep.
And so many people delay these things because of, I guess, their logic getting away, or, and I can really sympathize and understand with people who are more structured and they don't like
Mm.
kind of
Mhm.
charting out on a
Yeah.
unknown path.
Mhm.
But I think when here's an example from like Tony Robbins. He talks about, if you're only looking for red,
Yeah.
all you see is red.
Yeah.
And if you have this kind of perspective, like, this is what is acceptable in my life, this is what I anticipate and what I'm looking for,
Mhm.
then you're cutting yourself off from all these different things, and kind of going into things with no expectation, or
Yeah.
a hopeful expectation, or um an expectation that anything can happen, and that
Mm.
you're open to anything that happen. It's amazing all the different opportunities that can arise.
Yeah. And I'll
um
give you one really quick
yeah,
example of that
please.
too, like about just going into it and having an open minded, and exactly like what Tony Robbins said, if you look and see red, you only see red. If you see green, then you see green, right? So when I went into this thinking like about finding love, like, and I trust the universe, not knowing, not no expectation.
Mhm.
I wrote out the list of my ideal man of what I wanted to
Mm.
be his number one first priority. I wanted him to spoil me, to take me out to a restaurant once in a while, a trip here and there. So I had all of my criteria without having an image and expectation of what he was supposed to look like, what culture, whatever he was. And as soon as I was done, I had no expectation that I was supposed to find him right away in the next year. Maybe I just trust that wherever he is, when the time is right, I'll find him. And then I just gave it, like, that's the other part of the book, The Secret, as well, is I know how to manifest thing and not hold on to it. Like, I will make the desired thing that I want, throw it out in the universe, have zero expectation, but just trust that it's there waiting for me. It's already mine. And so
Mm.
when I did that, right away, Bing, my boyfriend, sent me a heart that he was interested. We got to talking, and I've always wanted to travel to Bali. He's been to Bali. He's been importing and exporting. We connected. It flowed like really natural. Our first date was so boring. He took me to the econ center because I just moved. I had so many boxes of TVs and moving stuff, and I needed a man to help me load it up in his van. He happened to came with a van because I said, if the guy that came and date me came in a Mustang, I'd be like turning him around because that's like, I hate guys who flash just their money. So he came, he had a Mustang and he had a van, but he decided that day he came with his van and not with his Mustang. I said, thank God you made the right decision because you came with a van and I needed all of my box to be shipped in your van so we can go to the eco center. And so all that just to say, when you go into it, like embracing, not expecting anything, just having fun. When I went on this date, I wasn't expecting that we end up together. I was just wanting to get to know another human being and connect and see if we're a good match. And we're still here today. We have fun. So
I
exactly.
think there's so many times in life too that I think like God, creator, whatever, has a sense of humor.
Yes.
And it's like the thing that you have your preconceived notions, your prejudices, your impressions of people. And I really learned this through hotels.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the hotels that I worked at would have these kind of everyday people at them, right? And you're thinking, oh, these are just kind of everyday, kind of people. But the hotels I worked at, these were like the number one hotels in the area. And I had, working with these people, I had kind of my preconceived judgment of who they were and their story. Because I wasn't always somebody who was kind of open and, like wanting to be everybody's friend and really understanding of people. I was kind of judgmental of people, honestly. Like I was a teenager, I thought I knew everything. We were all kind of like that. I know everything and everyone else is stupid, right? That was kind of me. And it was through really interacting with people and realizing like behind every single person, there's this amazing, extraordinary story of why they are the way they are, who they are.
Yeah.
And it's not who you think. And you have I want, this type of life and this is how my life's going to be. It doesn't really turn out that way, but there's some sort of poetic, self-actualization that your preconceived judgments about things, the reality of it is exactly the opposite. And that's what you needed to learn about that situation. I just think that God has such an, interesting sense of humor about things. And so many of the people that come into my life are not the people who I thought would necessarily be, my person or friend group or my ideal situation or the ideal thing, but it's like, you get exactly what you need, exactly where you are.
Yes, I really do believe that. And if you see it in that way, it just makes life a little bit more fun and a little bit more easier as well. But
right.
I like the fact that you mentioned about like when the fruit is ripe. If you have like an inkling feeling and it feels right to you, it's so crucial to listen to that thing. There's something about your intuition that always knows what's best, but it's hard for some people to listen to that intuition, right? So like when I bought this house, like I knew that this house was going to be my house. And also my intuition told me that this house is where I'll make my millions. I don't know why. But when I was looking for a house, I had 3 weeks before COVID hit for the divorce. I had 3 months to stay with my ex still. But my intuition told me, Ree, you don't have 3 months. You got 3 weeks to find a house. And I said, why? And all it says to me is like, something is huge that's coming all around the world. You've never experienced it before.
Wow.
So, yeah. So
Yeah.
you got 3 weeks. So bust your ass and look for houses every single time that you can. So I would visit 3-4 houses evening, Saturday, Sunday, and I was be constantly after my realtor. And he didn't want it to really look for anything for me at the beginning because, I was a single mom and the budget wasn't as big. But I kept at it and I was able to get this house in miraculous ways because I tried to book for a notary. It was impossible. It was a month waiting for a notary to get it because everybody was buying houses. It was exploding like crazy. And there was like 4 other offer, and they all offer higher price than the price that I was willing to offer for this house. But because the girlfriend knew me, I didn't know we worked at the same place, the person that was selling their homes. So they recognized my name and said, sell it to her. So, and all of that, like I looked everywhere for a notary, nobody. And then I thought, I asked the universe, help me. Where am I going to find a notary to sign, clear all of this thing out? And then an idea popped in my head. It said, Marie, you have a friend, a Cambodian friend who's a notary. He just passed his notary thing. Like, reach out to him. And I did. He happened to be on vacation. And because he's a friend, he took on my case and completed everything for me just in time. So I completed, got the house in 3 weeks. It's just
Wow.
magical. And I knew
Wow.
this house all that time. I said to myself, there's no way I'm going to get the house. But my intuition tells me, like, my sister, because my sister was talking to me, she passed away from depression. And I asked her for some help. I said, help me find a home for me and my kids where there's nothing gonna break, like, furthermore debts, like you move in a
Yeah.
home and you find there's more and
Be
more
expensive. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Just make it as least headache as possible. I'm going through a divorce. I had so much. I've 17 years, please give me a break. And she said, don't worry about it. I found you the perfect home, and this is the home that it's going to be yours. And I looked at her, I laughed. I was like, this is crazy. How would you know this house would be mine? We haven't even started the process. I haven't even bid. There's so many other people. So logic kicked in, right? And all it said, like an undying belief, is that, okay, you can explain it away in logic all of you wants, but this house is yours. So just trust me. Until the very last day, until they said this house was yours, I was constantly debating with my sister, going, you're crazy. It will never be my house. I can't afford all the timing. My ex clearing at the bank, it arrived exactly on time. He was actually late for 3 days for his thing, because in order for the money to clear. And I said, see, sis, you said the house would be mine. I can't even clear it. My ex-husband still didn't get the notice from the bank. There's 3 more days that he can only get it. But then it kicked in. My mom and dad actually helped me and chipped it in, and we were able to balance it off, and I got the home. So
Wow.
crazy how life works. So if there is, I love the things that you mentioned in your story as well. Like, if you had 2 or 3 things to actually give advice to people, what are those? And I'm actually going to go and get my stuff charged as well.
Yeah. I think the first thing is, don't wait.
Yes.
There's always an excuse to not do something. There's always an excuse to wait a little bit longer when you have more money, when you have more time, when the weather's right, when it's next year. And, tomorrow is never guaranteed.
Yes.
Tomorrow is just never guaranteed. So you can't wait on tomorrow, because tomorrow, may never come. Right. So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
I would say one of the pieces of advice that my dad gave me that I just think is so true is, don't limit yourself. You have so many other opinions. Your mom, like you said, my parents thought, crazy moving out to Japan or moving out to Hawaii. But I think more so than other people's opinions is other people limit themselves.
Yeah.
And you can really do anything, even the absurd, if you just really believe in yourself. So don't limit yourself, and don't plan too much would be the last thing. Because when you plan and everything is step by step and click by click, and exactly what you're going to do, I really do think that you miss out on so many different things. And having just that spirit of appreciation and openness and curiosity to the people and the situation and adventure. And one of the quotes from the guy who started Patagonia, he says, the adventure starts when things go wrong.
Oh, it's so
And when things go
true.
wrong, isn't that amazing? But it's so true. It's like, that's when I become alive. When I'm in life, and life is so wrote and everything is planned and my day is 100% planned and everything is exactly how I expected, I start to go down a little bit. I start to feel like, where's the adventure? Where's the drama? Where's some, so I think it keeps things interesting. So don't plan, don't limit yourself, and don't wait until tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this other quote that that I was looking at was it's by William Blake. And William Blake says, those who control their passions do so because their passions are weak enough to be controlled.
Mm.
Those who control their passions do so because their passions are weak enough to be controlled.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So that just means, like you haven't had that breaking point, that feeling of like, I just need, to pursue what I've been in this life for so long. And I think so many people put their passions and their desires and their weirdness and their strangeness and their life, they limit themselves.
Yes.
And they limit their passions.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you haven't found that thing that really makes you passionate, that nothing will keep you in between it. Maybe it's the love of your life. Maybe it's traveling the world. Maybe it's a big mission or a big adventure. But finding that thing that is so important, that passion that is so important that nothing will keep you in between it, that is so key. Because when I was in the depths and broke and driving, doing the most unglamorous thing, to make a buck, there was a passion behind it that said, no matter what, I'm going to make it work. And it was, I can do whatever I want, but I have to do whatever it takes to get there. And I did whatever it took, and I do whatever it takes. So I think those are all really important things.
I love how you put that last part, is like willing to do whatever it takes to get there. And that's the exact same mentality. I was writing my books just yesterday of what kept me going all of this time. And what kept me going was like, I will do whatever it takes to make it out of here, like whatever it is. And I'm willing to do anything. And I also trust in my own ability. I trust that it's going to work out just fine. And that trust and hope in moments of despair, it is so powerful. It keeps you going. So don't give up no matter whatever you're going through. Just, go through the process, do the best that you can. And it's not always going to be in the low all the time. It can't stay that way. I mean, after the rain comes the sun, right? So in every dark spot, there's something beautiful that's waiting just to break through. So I love that message. And for those who are actually not as much of a spontaneous like me and Alex, I think those who likes to plan, I think you can do a combination of both, because it makes them insecure when there's too much of this.
Yeah.
So for
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed. So for you guys, it's like maybe you might want to combine a little bit of structures and a little bit of moment here and there where you still feel like the sense of adventure and you're going to explore, you're doing things outside of what you're used to. And I find when you break the pattern of what you're used to, breaking the pattern allows you to discover new things. Like when I play tennis with my boyfriend and I can't beat him at the tennis game, I'm saying, okay, my pattern is not working. So I can keep redoing the same old pattern again and again, expecting a different outcome. It's not going to change until I drastically do something he never seen. Like when I play tennis, I'm like, "Grr." So I do something completely out of the unexpected that he never expect my, service and stuff. And there you go. I win the game. So it's by doing something completely different to discover a new breakthrough. And so never be like, I never limit myself. I'm like, this thing doesn't work. I'm going to try something completely off the chart to figure out what is the right way in order to get to where I need to be.
Wow. That I got goosebumps from that, because that is so, I never thought about it like that. It is a pattern interrupt.
Yes.
Right. And you're like fooling your brain.
Yep.
Right. Because your brain, like we said, it's so in this pattern of identification of what's possible
Yeah.
that when you break the pattern and you do something completely out of your wheelhouse, well, that internal dialogue of what's possible almost stops. Right.
Yes.
And you're addressing new things.
Yeah.
I
And it
just think
starts
that's
to open
amazing.
up,
Yeah.
your limbs open up. You're like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's something called the mind forged manacles,
Mm,
where we create these, these blinders
yes.
that show us what's possible in the
Mm,
world.
hmm.
Right. And those things are through our conditioning, through our patterns, through our habits. And yeah, taking those off and expanding our horizons, right? I
Hmm.
think that's so powerful. I love what you said about that, though. It really is a pattern disrupt. And when I'm living in Hawaii right now, I'm living
Hmm.
this amazing life. I can do what I want. I'm running an online business.
Yeah.
There's patterns in there that begin to exhaust me. And
Hmm.
that's really what I'm looking for, is I'm looking for that pattern disruption
Hmm.
to not just kind of, for me, I feel like I'm not living life because I'm so stuck in the routine of things.
Yes.
And my life isn't really about, I mean, routine is helpful and it can help you be very, in business, right? And both of us are business owners. Like, routine and patterns definitely help with performance, but, and getting things done. But um, the routine can also be kind of a prison
Yeah.
too.
And for a lot of business owner, very, very successful business owner, that's what I've learned from them is business interrupt. Their best way of going to bring their profit income in a huge amount is they go and they seek creativity elsewhere by exploring, breaking their pattern, just going to watch and observe and
Mm,
just see and learn new stuff, and they travel the world because you're always going to look for ideas and things. And when you just become like the observer that is just taking it all in, like a kid that's learning for the first time how to ride a bike, and so you
wow.
see so many solutions, and you come back to your old routine in your life, and now you got like a bag of tricks behind that you can actually incorporate and make it, because after a while, life with routines and stuff, it becomes mundane, and
Yeah.
then you lose the flavor of and the passion of it. So that's why it's so important to do the interrupt of the pattern, and it just come back with a new look, a new eye, and it keeps you also refreshed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And we're coming close to the very end here. I love having you because you're so profound and so deep, but also very, very open minded. And I think a lot of my audience, as well as probably when we'll put this out in public, people are really going to learn a whole lot from this. And I hope that they learn, if nothing else, just embrace the moment, take risks, don't wait. And you know what? It's that you don't have to know what that passion is. It's just tip your toe in. That's what I do. I force myself when I'm scared of something like TikToks. I'm afraid. But then I'm like, I had this feeling I'm supposed to do TikTok. So somebody mentioned TikTok in my contact because I was thinking like I should do TikToks. And then I meet Bill, who I interview on this podcast, and he said, "Do you know Alex?" No. And then I'm like, the sign is there, Ree. I could have just easily say logic wise, I'm like, I'm not going to go there. It's not for me. I have a judgment on social media and all that stuff. So I said, okay, here's a sign. You had an intuition. You want to follow it. Let's just explore it. Let's just have fun with this. And here I am. I have such an amazing time. And I get to even interview Alex on this thing here. And I'm going to learn to have a TikTok account. It's crazy. And I'm going to have a blast on it. I might screw it up big time, but hey, that's what life is. It's screwing up and learning from it. It's by failing is how you're going to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, you're going to be famous on TikTok. I know that for sure. So yeah,
So no,
no worries there. That's one thing we do know. That's one future that we do know, is that you definitely will. You're going to do great, honestly. So
oh, thank
yeah,
you so
but I
much.
appreciate all the nice things that you said. And yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to be connected with you and be on the podcast. And I really love the conversation that we had today.
It's very deep. And I'm going to leave you with the last quote. And also, I want you to also be able to share as well. If you have anything that you're promoting or any kind of training
Yeah.
you have that people can really benefit. I've already shared quite a bit. I launched it with a group of people. I'm like, hey, I'm doing TikTok. I know nothing about TikTok. And this
Right.
guy, he's great. And he's going to show us how to do it if you're ever interested. So I shared it with people because I believe the more you share, the better
Mm.
it is. I don't like to keep information for myself. I think,
Mm.
or like
Yeah.
I read, the more people would actually rise up, the better it is for humanity.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And the ways that I help people is I help people on TikTok and I provide individual or group coaching and really helping the business owner who doesn't really know where to start, or
Yeah.
maybe they tried it but they've never really succeeded before and they're, they just don't, they feel lost, they feel hopeless, maybe because they tried it before. And they need somebody to coach them step by step, click by click. When you're learning this, not always best to kind of leave it to chance, right? When you're trying to learn a skill, there
Yeah.
is a structure, there's a system behind it. And so we have a really extensive system, a course, coaching every day, a huge community to help and support you. So anybody can reach out to me. And you'll put some links in the chat here, but
Mhm.
yeah. And my final quote to leave everybody on, I would think it's probably don't limit yourself. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that is just such, it's meant new things over, kind of my life. When my dad first told it to me when I was really young, I was getting into a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And he said, don't limit yourself by getting in too much trouble. And then you have like something on
Right.
your record, or you ruin your job prospects, or you get injured.
Yeah.
But now I really look at it as like, with all the kind of experience I had in my life, like, just you don't know what's possible
Yeah.
and you don't know what you can do. And it's a lot of times more than you ever thought you could do. The most successful people in the world didn't think to themselves, I'm going to be like this hyper successful. Maybe they had the drive,
Yes.
but they didn't have the expectation. And they
Mm-hmm.
didn't think like, most of the richest, most successful people, they have far exceeded what they ever thought they could accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it takes hard work ethic because it's
Yeah,
like you said, I mean, it's application, it's hard work that goes into it, but they never went into it knowing what's is possible. And even when you reach the highest of highest, there's still more to be
that's right.
explored. You just don't know. So I love that idea. And I always said as a kid, I don't know who put it in my head. I think it's probably just myself, but I've always said when people used to tell me, "Oh, that's impossible." I'm like, "What's impossible?"
Mhm.
I don't even know that word, what it really means. Like in my head, I was like, nothing is impossible. If I have the will and the drive, I'll make the impossible possible. And so
Yeah.
in my head, that was always it. But as we grew up older and you got social expectation, all this thing, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden I started going, maybe it is impossible. So
Yeah.
I go back and tap into my childhood self and go, where's that read that says, what is impossible? It doesn't
Yeah.
exist, the word impossible. And just really open up the horizon because your imagination is whatever you make it. Look, we're, man on moon. Like, who would have thought that would be possible? Because you allow your imagination to imagine what is possible. And so you don't
Yeah.
know. So there's so much that could be done. So don't limit yourself. Alex, I love it. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
And I want to be able to say to the audience, I'm going to post all the information about Alex, how you can reach him, and so on and so forth. And he's a great guy and he's just genuinely down to earth, very simplistic. And I love the fact that he can actually say poems like that good. I've been trying to write a poem forever. I could get one line. Thank you so much, everybody.